All right, good morning, everyone. We got the amazing Cody Davis back, and I guess since someone saw that Cody was going to be on, I had a little intruder message me this morning. But we got another rock star on. We got Brandon Build to Rent Texas on. So, morning, fellas.
Morning.
Morning.
Yeah, so we're gonna kind of go over one of Cody's more recent videos. Worst ethical mistake you'll probably make. I put that link to that video in the chat if you want to check it out. But I think maybe when Brandon saw the topic, he felt like, hey, this is kind of right up my alley also. So maybe Brandon, you can quickly start. Like maybe what caught your eye about the maybe thumbnail or the topic, and did you even get a chance to watch the video?
I didn't get a chance to watch the video, so I want to let Cody talk first because it might be totally different than what I'm thinking. But doing right things and being ethical pays dividends over time. So I'd like to hear what you've got to say, Cody.
All right, cool.
I did not think that video was going to take off at all because it can be boring for people. However, that was my first video in a while. I got over 500 views, so I figured that was kind of cool. The idea was, out of all the ethical lines you can cross, the one is shifting your boundaries. So if you set out your rules of I'm going to operate between here and here, and then an opportunity comes up to either do something or say something or not do something, but in order to do so, you have to push your ethical boundary out just a slight bit. You're drawing a new line in the sand. The problem that I wanted to address in that video is that you can't get it back because subconsciously, what I've seen anyway of other people is that they refer back to that time they pushed it. And they're like, well, I pushed it that one time and it was for this. So this is an even better opportunity. I could push it just a little bit further. And then you wake up 5 years from that, wherever you were, and you're a completely different person. The things you won't do or would say about someone completely change. And so that's why I wanted to make that video. It happened to my first mentor. He pushed the boundary a little bit, then he pushed the boundary a little bit and pushed the boundary until the point where he's not in business anymore. And it happens to a lot of people.
Yeah, I've taught this before, Cody, in some organizations that I've led. And I think we're all fighting this. So it was I bet you that video, I haven't listened to it, but what you're describing now, it's a very honest discussion of what you're fighting within yourself. What I used to say is if you compromise once, you'll compromise again. Just the fact that you did a compromise opens the door to more compromises.
Yeah, I think like I said, this video caught my eye. I'm surprised Cody thought it wasn't going to do well, but I think just the idea, and I think a lot of people kind of been following your journey, and just that topic that you brought up was interesting for me I want to dig into it more, kind of where it was coming from. And I think, like you're saying, we all kind of face that no matter, and like you said, I think in the video you touched on, I'm kind of focusing this on new investors in a sense where this is something that's probably going to come up with some point during your journey, right? So, did you ever think when you started though that the ethical side would even come up for you in a sense?
Well, I didn't know much about anything when I was getting started, so I didn't know what was going to come up or not come up. But the main reason I wanted to post that video out of just sharing that message was because I'm seeing there's a lot of stuff going on in the United States, but there's so much negativity. And so people are saying things for their personal views one way or another. And I see that in that ethical boundary category of, well, if you're willing to say this about a group, no matter which group it is, or say it about an individual, whether you realize it or not, you're pushing your ethical boundary of what you're willing to have in your universe. Because if you're saying it, you're saying other people can say the same thing. And so you start to push that over and over and over. And I've just been seeing that a lot over the last couple of years, and more so lately. So I figured that would be a good thing to talk about. But no, when I was getting started, to answer your question, I didn't know anything that was going to pop up. There was a big learning curve, and there still is.
Yeah, Jasek tuning in from New Jersey, who has his own business, but he says, yes, true wisdom comes with time. And I see Josh here. Yes, Josh Burdick. If you didn't get to see that video, the link is in the chat, but definitely go check it out on Cody's channel. And Brandon, I don't want to age you or anything, but I know you've been in the business for some time, right? Whether it been on the banking side or what you're doing now. But when did this kind of maybe pop up for you? The ethical side of things in your journey.
I mean, it has throughout. I mean, as soon as we are even in high school, there's ethical choices, and all the way through, especially. I remember one time, and I had to demonstrate it to my own children. And this is going to age me, Cody, because you're not that much older than my oldest, but a little bit. So, and they got to witness it. So, I think integrity, doing what's right, and you're talking about talking about others, that is a form of integrity too. But doing what's right when no one else is looking, that is where integrity shows up, when no one else will know but you. But I think making those right decisions creates more momentum to continue. We had a situation, this was 3 years ago. So some of y'all know, and this is not why I'm doing it, I have a property management company, but we had a situation. I had let someone go. I'd found out they were doing some wrong things, but they made a mistake and they were underpaying the owner. Well, they actually left and went after that owner. But I found out that they had been underpaid by $200 a month for 2 years. And this was at Christmas, and I'm in the garage, and I said, what is the right thing? I know this is tough. I know I need the money, but to do the right thing was to let that owner know and say, I am sorry. I found this money, basically $4,800, and I owe this money to you. She did not know about it, but I discovered it. My kids got to hear the story. So I called the owner and I told her the story. Now she's leaving my company. So not only am I losing the business, but I'm saying, hey, I've discovered something. We've made a mistake. We underpaid you. Because integrity shows up. I think a lot of times it's hard, especially when money's involved. And I told her that. I said, I'm sorry. We have made this mistake, and I want to do what's right. I owe you $4,800. And this was 3 weeks before Christmas. So I told the kids, I said, hey, we're going to have to write this check. We're still, young in this business. I said, Christmas is going to be tight this year. We found a mistake that I didn't make. It was that employee that left me made, and she was now going after that client to pick them up. I told her that. She said, thank you. Oh, said all those pleasantries, said, I'll get back with you. But I did the right thing regardless. But I will say it was rewarded this one time. It doesn't mean that's still the good. It has to be done, but I was doing the right thing. She ended up staying with our company because of that integrity of telling her the mistake we made and owning it and writing her that check. Those are the times where ethics, doing what's right, no one else knew but me. She didn't know, and she was leaving our company. We were losing her business. But I knew it was the right thing to do. Not only did it create a story I'm still telling today, but it demonstrated to my own family that integrity is more important than money. So there's just a quick story.
I just want to say good morning to everyone tuning in and remind everyone that both of these individuals will be speaking at the One Rental at a Time event in Vegas. I believe Cody is kicking off day 1, and I believe Brandon's on day 2.
I'm at the beginning of day 2. Yeah.
All right. So if you guys do have any questions or maybe topics or that you'd like them to cover at the event, maybe you can throw it in there. But I know Brandon's working on his. He got his PowerPoints set up. But I think as far as this ethical side goes, do you think there's, do you think some people look at it as maybe like, it's just a one-time thing? Like I can do it just one time. I need this deal or I need this to happen, and it's going to be a one time, and I'm going to move on from it. Do you think that's something people struggle with often? Maybe Cody, you can go first.
Yeah, I've seen it happen to a lot of people. They put themselves in positions, whether they're doing it on purpose or not. Some people like to be in positions where they have to do stuff out of necessity because they think it makes them better. But they can make a lot of bad decisions in there. A lot of people face it, especially when they're getting started. They got the least amount of information, the least amount of money relative to, if they're here and they're trying to go here, they're going to have more money and experience at this point in the journey than they are at this point in the journey. So a lot of people want the fastest path to the end destination. And typically what's the fastest is not what's the best decision. I mean, I've had opportunities in the past where I could have done something and made a lot of money relatively quickly, but you have to look at where the money's coming from, and it was always at the expense of others. I've learned from a lot of people that they ran slum properties, so it was at the expense of their tenants' living situation, that they got to pay down the debts faster. Now that's their journey, but I didn't want to do that. That would have been the faster route. It would have been probably the wrong decision on the ethical boundary side. A lot of people opt for the faster money. That's my observation. And I think that would be a wrong decision if you look 30, 40 years into the future, or 20 years in the future, depending on how old you are. You look into the future and you look back, it's like, well, am I really happy I did that? Or maybe I should have just waited an extra couple of years and felt better about the whole situation. But that's a personal decision, ultimately. I mean, some people are okay with that.
Your thoughts on it, Brandon?
Yeah, I think in my decades of experience in business, I see the reward. It is I would call it that long tail effect. It's making little decisions all the time, daily, doing what's right, pays dividends over time. It's not always immediate. It's learning, sorry, it's learning, it happens over time. But then people really want to work with and do business with people that want to do the right things. I think that's what we all are seeking when we're doing business, buying more properties. We absolutely, we will avoid people that we know are unethical in their behavior. We want to be those that are sought out, and I think business is rewarded over time of people that do things and do what's right. Even sometimes you're choosing against yourself, and that's the hardest thing to do, is choosing against yourself because it's the right thing to do. But I think I've watched this now with my 30 plus years of business experience. It is rewarded, and you begin to get that reputation. And then also there's momentum in that the good people want to work with you. And then you build a good, stable group of business partners and relationships with solid, ethical people. You can do better business going forward. This takes time. It's a long tail effect.
Before we get into some of the comments in our chats going on right now, I know there was some pushback on the video though, right, Cody? I was looking at the comments the other day when I saw the video, but this one individual says, Cody don't know shit about business, because if you are in business, you don't have ethics other than profit at the expense of everything else. Ask Google, Facebook, or 47 about ethics and wait for the laughter. Ask any of the billionaires in the cabinet about ethics. I double dog dare you.
Yeah, I remember that one. They were not open to a discussion.
Mm-hmm.
That is the bottom line I drew from that. I welcomed them to my channel because someone who leaves a comment like that about myself has not watched my channel. That was my first intro with them. But I basically try to establish that we've come to different conclusions based on our surroundings. Because if they were dealing with people like me or you, they might have come to a different conclusion. Talking with Dion, you don't have to get top dollar. Work with your tenants. Keep them happy. Happy tenants don't trash your property. There's just a difference in perspectives because that's totally valid. Their perspective is valid. They don't have the full truth of the situation. They haven't worked with people that prioritize people's happiness above the total bottom line, because I'm willing to leave some money on the table if it means someone gets a place to stay. But they haven't experienced that, so that's totally fair. And I wanted to engage a discussion. They didn't want to have a conversation. They wanted to say, well, you're wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. And I guess if my only argument was I wouldn't have been able to get 20 million in debt if I didn't know something, right? Everybody can get a credit card. Not everybody can get to 20 million in debt in a few years. So just leave it at that.
Well, like I said, usually that means you made it, right? So if other people want to go know more about that back and forth, like you're trying to open up a discussion with this individual and they didn't want to have it, but go check out that video, go look in the comment section. And yeah, like I said, a lot of people are already commenting that what a hateful person, or this person not really speaking on knowledgeable information. But Brandon, in like your space also, like you said, you have a property management company. Is that sometimes like you're kind of like that middleman too, though, right? See, you're trying to maximize profits for your client who's the owner, right? But then at the same
Well, it's funny you say that. I have written articles. I do a quarterly newsletter for the owners, and I've written an article. Basically, Cody, something you said, what Dion says. I'm living it out on my own properties. So when I write these articles, I'm writing them because I'm living them too. Writing them and trying to educate somebody when you're not living it, it's called hypocrisy. And I fight that in my mind. I don't want to be a hypocrite, though we all are in some form. But I said, if you can get, maybe it's not max market rents, but get a little bit lower rents and create stability, that is a better thing. Because you're helping, if you're looking at a perspective of doing business, if I help them get what they want within reason, if I help someone get what they want, I usually end up getting what I want. It's coming from that, a little bit of that servant perspective. And I actually just recently, I lowered the rent because that was where the market was to a current tenant. They were coming up for renewal, and I said, hey, here's where the market is. And I actually lowered their rent. They chose to stay, and I feel good about it. It's not always having to get max market rents. It's finding that right spot. And I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I'm sharing some things that I've learned through the decades of trying to do what's right and seeking, even with my owners, I'm asking them, what do they want? Because I'm trying to find out, and I tell them, we're both making a decision whether we want to go in business together. It is a business relationship. So I'm trying to find out what they want. If they are an owner that doesn't want to take care of their properties, wants to basically abuse their tenants and not do the repairs, I tell them we're not a good fit. And I have fired a couple of owners over that. I want owners that want to do the right thing. So I'm trying to live this out, and I'm saying I'm living it out daily, and I'm trying to build a business even with my owners and myself, trying to do what's right, and putting, we're talking rents, putting the rents where it's fair to both sides. Dion's binder method is that same principle. It's a discussion with the tenant, and you're trying to remain fair to both sides. And that's why I think why it's so successful. It's that psychological effect of that the tenant feels that the owner's being fair. They naturally want to, with reciprocity, want to be fair to the owner. It's the law of reciprocity. How you treat somebody else is a lot of the ways how you're going to be treated back.
I better be nicer to you then from now on, right?
I'm Mark. I'm praying for your soul, buddy.
No, but let's see. So J6 here, J6 says employees can cost not only a lot of money, but not necessary headache in the future, even way long after they're gone. Hey, Nick is here. Lead pray huddle, integrity first. John, deconstructing dreams. And hopefully your retina is getting better. Hopefully you're resting up. He says, if you do something questionable, once it is easier, the next time it is no big deal. Yeah, I think that's definitely something that people face, right? There was another one I want to dig into. Troy says it's doing the right thing when people are not looking that builds character in any person. I think on that point, there's kind of, is there, is there maybe someone that keeps you accountable? Maybe Cody, you can go first. Like if you facing a decision on the ethical lines of ethical, um, that you maybe look back on, or someone that that's going to be disappointed in you, maybe if you were to go down that route, or is there someone that holds you accountable in a sense?
They don't know it. I mean, they might, but they probably don't remember. When I was a kid, I was in high school. I don't even remember what I did. It wasn't too crazy because I never was the type of high schooler that did drugs or alcohol or anything. But I did something, and my dad said, "I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed." And for anybody who knows, like if you're close with your family and you hear that from a parent, that's awful. And it's not like getting disowned, but like my parents never ever hit me ever. But getting that was probably worse than getting hit because of the connection we had. And I never want to hear that again. So like if that would be very devastating to me. It's not worth any amount of money.
Cody, I've used that with my own children. And I've only used it literally now I've got kids right at 20 years old, an 18-year-old and a 14-year-old. I realize that's a hard one, but it teaches a lesson saying, Hudson, I'm disappointed in that decision. But it's to create a change versus any other punishment. But I would say accountability, and this is where right in my alley. I grew up, my father mentored another man he actually was a banker. And that banker mentored me. And then I eventually mentored his son. And I do believe we all need these things in our lives. I have a group of men that I work with that we get together on Friday mornings. That'll be tomorrow morning. But I do believe you need an older person in your life that is mentoring you. Then I think you also need somebody kind of in your same age that kind of like somebody you can relate to and go through the journey. And then you need somebody younger you're mentoring. It's the image of having a pitcher of water pouring into a pitcher, and then that pitcher is pouring that water into another. How we gain value is having somebody build into us. Then we're relating with somebody similar age on our journey together. And then you're pouring back into somebody else. It is that principle. I use it for a Paul, a Barnabas, and a Timothy. You're working through this. And I've had that in my life, and it's worked well, and I'm still doing it today.
Frank, old guy REI, says, over my years in business, sometimes when I've come up against challenges, moral or otherwise, I would try to have a family meeting and ask wife, son, and daughters their opinions and possible solutions. I think that's what's great about the community, the one rental time, the school community, right, is all these accountability groups. There's always a place for people to go to bounce ideas off of. Like you said, maybe, like you said, even just hold you accountable, right? I think like if Brandon was to reach out to me one day, like, yeah, I think there was the video that I was doing the other week about someone was doing a lot of seller finance type things, deals, no money down, and Brandon calls you up and goes, "Hey man," he's like, "What are you promoting on your channel now? Are you promoting all these kind of get rich quick kind of things, right?" And so it was all in fun, but it was just kind of that, right? The community is always kind of watching, and I think definitely if Brandon reached out and like he was like, "Man, I'm disappointed in you for doing this or something," right? It would make me think what I was doing or what direction the channel was headed, right? So I think that's what's great about what we're all doing, and holding everyone accountable for.
And I think that's what brings value to this group. There is something special with this group. And I mean that. I'm sure y'all are see some other groups and see, I would call it the compromises. Our group is really trying to teach long-term wealth. And there are principles you need to stay within to create this long-term wealth. And I think this group does very good at holding that standard of the principles of how you create long-term wealth in real estate. And even with Michael in the critiques he's getting even in the last month and how he conducted himself with those pot shots taken at him and he didn't lash out back at him. He created a higher standard of how to handle those situations, and it made him look bigger.
So Cody, for you, I mean, I know you've kind of been with the one rental at a time community for a while. I mean, you had your own, but you're fairly newer to the school community. Kind of what's your take on, being a part of it? And like you said, you've taken the lead on an accountability group on Saturdays, but what has been your experience with everything so far?
There's a lot of great people there, for sure. I like it. I like being able to log in and see what people are working on. Keeps me motivated. And I like meeting with people every week because we do the Gen Z Plus. We have a lot of plus in the Gen Z call. So folks who are not exactly Gen Z are still welcome. But it's been cool. The very first accountability call, my stated goal was to do a refinance and get liquid. And I completed that 2 days ago. So I'm staying accountable to my goals as other people are with theirs. It's cool.
Yeah,
Cody, I'm gonna see if I can get my daughter who wants to get into the business. She's 18, and it would be good for her to be on that call with you in that group. And I'm gonna see if I can coordinate that for her to just hear what y'all are talking about. And y'all are, not quite the same age, but similar. You just gave me that thought of trying to get my daughter Bailey to listen in. She's going to college next year to be a finance major, but she wants to come into our business. And she's one of the ones that I'm teaching our personal business to, of all the builds. She helps me pick out the colors, the tile work, the countertops. I had her pick out an elevation yesterday. We're building 2 properties side by side, so I've got to do one that looks a little different, even though it's the same floor plan. I had her help me pick it out, and she's getting that interest. So I'm going to push her to be in on that call. And you said it's on Saturday morning?
Saturday morning. I believe it's 8 a.m.
8 a.m.
Pacific.
I will see if I can get her to be on it this week. I think it would be, well, it's homecoming week. Never mind. She will not be up. She'll be sleeping because it's homecoming night. She might get, I think there's a high likelihood she's going to get voted homecoming queen tomorrow night. There's a very high likelihood she's going to be the one. But I want her to be in on those calls, Cody. So I'm going to try to get you another Gen Zer.
Cool. Yeah, I was never homecoming queen.
Yeah,
I'm glad.
It's not for everybody.
I was surprised Brandon was married when I saw him in Vegas, but no. But I know, Cody, you kind of touched on it. I didn't, maybe I missed it, but you were talking about a mentor in the beginning. That's kind of maybe why this whole topic kind of came up. So did your mentor make a decision?
It was a lot of decisions. And I didn't understand all of them until years after we fell out of touch. Because you see stuff happen and some of it clicks. And you're like, oh, I get what he was doing. Because someone gives you a little bit of context into why they're thinking the way they do. And so you start to align with what they're doing. And then you do a little bit of maturing and growing up and getting different perspectives. And then you realize why they were really doing it. You come to your own conclusions, which is super important. Even if you have an answer, if you can't back into that answer on your own, you don't really know what you're doing or saying. So it took a few years, but again, he wasn't the reason I made the video. I just observed a lot of this in that individual. And I looked up to him like a dad. So that was really painful. I'd met him back in 2018 and we had grown pretty close. But yeah, he showed me a lot of what to do. And he also showed me a lot of what not to do, which makes a really great mentor, no matter how you slice it. But the reason I made the video is because I've been seeing so much negativity on the internet of just people hating on each other. Kind of like we just saw a hate comment on one of my things. There's so much anger because of people's situations. And I see a lot of people saying things they probably wouldn't have said a couple of years ago, and they've allowed that ethical boundary on the idea of what they would say about other people shift. And it's unfortunate because they're not going to take that back. They can't take it back.
Anything to add on that, Brandon? Or
No, I mean, I don't know if y'all had that illustration our kids did in our school of taking a tooth a tube of toothpaste and squeezing it out and then asking them to put the toothpaste back in the tube. And Cody, that's what you're describing. Sometimes we've got to have that hold back, that filter, because words can be said, that hatred and that anger. And I agree with you. I'm staying off of social media right now because it's so ugly. It's just so ugly. And it's making me grow that way. And I don't want that. So I've stayed off the last week and a half, but it's just like that tube of toothpaste illustration. You can't put those words, you can't take them back once they're said or put online.
Well, and you don't know what other people are going through, right? You only know what people tell you. And the problem with putting all that stuff online, not only are you pushing your boundary, but you're enabling other people to think that's acceptable. And now that their boundaries start to move. And for right or for wrong, people get on a line because they want to see stuff that makes them laugh, or they want to stay connected with their friends. And then they see that and they're like, oh, I guess this is the norm. I can do this too. And you're shifting people's perspective without any other input. It's like that idea that I was getting all those perspectives from my original mentor, and I thought that was the way it was. And I had to come to my own conclusions later. Well, you come to your own conclusions later from what you see on the internet, and you realize, oh, I probably shouldn't have done that. You can't take it back.
Yeah, Lead Pray Huddle says, what's it mean to gain the whole world if you lose your soul in the process? That's biblical. John says, haters gonna hate, no different than all the folks that say they can't do this or that because of whatever excuse.
One of the things that I heard years ago, and this is Cody, when I know, are you married now? Or are you getting married? Next month. Okay. As you begin to have children, the children really teach you a lot, but things that you realize you've got to hold yourself to a higher standard. What you as an adult, as the parent do that compromises in moderation, your kids will tend to do in excess. And so you think about those things that, hey, maybe I have control over this and I can do this in moderation. It's not necessarily right or wrong, but I'm doing it in front of my children. They will then tend to struggle wanting to do that in excess. So I am choosing to do things that aren't wrong, but I'm choosing not to do them so that I don't tempt my children to do them in excess.
Hey, Curtis, PE turned RE is here. He says, Cody, do you know Greg? I think it's Pinero, right?
Pineo.
Oh, is it Pineo?
Yeah.
I'll be at the event on Saturday.
I have met him before, and I will leave it at that.
All right, that's a good. Let's see. Yeah, Joe making his stupid comments again, but Joe's a good guy, so it's all in good fun. Frank, old guy REI. All old people don't make good mentors, but we can learn something from everyone. Yeah, definitely. So we kind of have a full, like Cody's definitely, like you said, Gen Zer. Me and Brandon are definitely on the older side, right? So yeah, we're kind of showing that different levels of how, we are all learning, right? We're still learning and learning at different phases, different learning at different points. And Cody is very successful in his business, talking about how, like how much debt you accumulated and whatnot. But even you're still learning, like you're saying, right? John says, kids copy everything. I try to look at my actions as a kid copying that. I don't want a kid to copy poor actions. I want to give good examples from them to copy. And maybe this is making it a little too simplistic or whatnot, but I don't know if you guys follow sports and things like that, but what do you guys think? So I know recently they had like the Little League World Series, I believe, and they were showing I don't know if it was from that, but that age group baseball, and like the kid was on second base stealing the signs from the catcher to relay it back to his team hitting, right? And the announcers were like, kids at this age don't pick that up themselves, right? Someone is having to teach them this, right? Like this skill to steal the signs. And so I don't know. So that's the hard part too, right? Like, would you feel that's cheating in a sense or unethical? Like, where's the boundaries, I guess, on that?
Is it against the rules?
It is not technically
I don't
against the
follow that
yeah.
sport, so I don't know.
I mean, so it's one of those unwritten rules where you might get beamed the next pitch, right? If they see you doing it, right, and then the opposing team might be like, this damn person, and then you might your the next hitter might get plunked for it, right? Like, so it's not illegal or it's not against the rules or anything, but yeah. But is it cheating in a sense, right? So that's yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the same argument could be made for knowing better banking connections in the real estate world. Is it cheating that I can get a better deal put together than someone who's getting started? No, I got the right connections and was more perceptive. It's part of the game. And you were saying that they might get beamed, like they're going to throw the ball at the hitter. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like the guy batting, he would probably get.
So that's an unspoken consequence to an unspoken rule. If it was that bad, in my perspective, they would make a rule on it for that situation. Of course, I don't follow sports, so it's just an outsider that is uninformed. And I've been hit by a baseball, so I know how that feels. To granted, Little League, it's not 100 miles an hour, so I don't know what that feels like. But I've been hit before, and kind of just is what it is. But if you want to play, I guess it goes back to the old saying: if you want to play stupid games, you win stupid prizes, and that would be a consequence of playing that game. So then my thought process would be, if you're going to do that, don't get caught.
Brandon?
I think at that age, it creates some things for the future that aren't good. So, I was agreeing with some of the commentary I heard it on ESPN. I agree. I don't believe it's technically wrong, illegal to do it, but it's just, I don't know. It's not the right spirit of the game. I don't have a definitive answer to that.
Yeah,
I
no,
didn't play baseball at all.
yeah. I mean, but I like how like Cody brought up like banking, right? You're just taking advantage of kind of what's out there or your resources, right? So same thing. It's not technically illegal. So
Well, as long as you're operating within the rule set and you're not hurting someone in the process, I feel like it would be unwise to play a less sophisticated game if you can. Now, that's a top behavior. The problem that's going to create is if those kids grow up and they look for the little hacks in life and they don't apply a moral compass, that's where that's going to be bad, because they're going to be applying it and then they start to push that boundary outside of the sport where it can hurt people. And you're not just getting hit by a baseball, right? So a lack of discipline on that front can create a lot of issues for them. But I think you should play as sophisticated a game within the rules as you can in any sport. And I treat the real estate like a game too. So if you can play at a higher level and you're not breaking the laws, you're not cheating the banks, you're not stealing from people, but you can play at a higher level than the person next to you, if that's what you want to do, you should do it.
Yeah, I like that. I definitely think it's also comes down to the adult or the individual, you know, maybe teaching this child that or how they're presenting it, right? Like if you're presenting it the way Cody is, like, you know, we want to still do it in the best interest, but it's still we're looking for advantages and how to use it, right? So it still comes down instead of a coach being like, no, we're trying to cheat to win, or we're trying to do everything possible to try to just win the game, right? So I think it definitely comes down to who is presenting it to this child or who how they're going to use this, right?
And it depends what lessons you get from it. Because I can only go back to real estate because that's my main thing. But real estate is an imperfect market. There's going to be people who know things other people don't. I mean, in the stock market, like, unless you're doing the insider trading stuff, you can know everything that your friend can know if you do enough research.
Well, I mean, the game, let's just do a different game. The game of poker is learning how to read tells. Everybody has a tell. Well, they do that in sports too. Everybody has a tell. Your pitcher has a tell, whether he's going to pitch it to the plate or back to first base if you're on first base. You're trying to read tells. In real estate, we're even doing the same thing. We're working with these different partners, being finance, contractors, you name it. We're looking for our advantage, and there's nothing wrong with that, of having strong relationships. And I agree with you, Cody. We're using all the things within within ethical boundaries. We're trying to leverage every advantage we can, per se, to create great investments.
Hey, I see Dion tuning in. Yeah, thanks, Dion. He says every time you hit the like button, an angel gets its wings. Lynn says, I always feel bad for the people that spread hate online. It speaks so much louder about the kind of miserable life they're leading that spreading hate is the only way they feel good about themselves. Yeah. Hyder says, if one does not audit everything one puts in their attention, one is susceptible to algorithm manipulation. Frank says, I think a lot of times people say mean things because they think they'll never come face to face. Yeah. Example, rude or stupid drivers think the same way. Yeah, that is a great point. Yeah. Um, yeah, let's maybe wrap it up. Not wrap it up, but kind of some final questions. But do you think today's environment, social media, fast money, syndications, makes it harder than ever to stay ethical? Brandon, you can go first.
No, it just makes you to stay more focused. And what I see is the ones that do the best are really focused on what type of investment model they are going to follow so that they can maximize their investments, getting distracted by all those different other models that aren't as safe of investments. If you're staying focused, it's not even a temptation.
Cody, thoughts on that?
I agree. Just because there's a lot of noise doesn't mean you have to listen to it. And there's a lot of vehicles. I mean, you look back, people say it was easier back then to buy because of the price, but now it's easier to do deals because there's so much information out there. You just have to be very selective of what information you take in and apply. And don't let what someone else is doing affect your moral compass. Because a lot of the people that are online that are doing syndications, a lot of their deals suck. And it's fast money because they collect their fees and then they lose the property or the investor doesn't get the return. And so it would be unwise to base your decisions off of what people online are doing. Because a lot of the big names most people know that look like they're doing a lot don't have the balance sheet to back it up. They got a lot of debt that they don't show on their balance sheet. That's what I've seen consistently.
Yeah, good point. Hyder says use every advantage afforded for as long as no victims are created, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Deconstructing Dreams John says, not technically cheating, but it is morally wrong. Hyder says, if both teams have the ability to employ the technique, then it's equal opportunity. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, this is a good one. That's a question that came. If you saw a partner or friend bending the rules, would you call them out publicly or privately, or maybe how would you handle that situation, Cody?
Absolutely. And I have called people out.
Mhm.
I don't try and shame them on the internet, but I'll have the conversation with them behind closed doors. It's like, I don't like what you're doing. And I don't think if you heard someone doing this 5 years ago, I don't think you'd be happy about it either. And I leave it at that. If they want to keep doing it, it's on them. But some people do stuff and they don't realize they're doing it, to be fair. And you have to get called out on it. So, yeah, it would be a disservice to yourself and your friend if you didn't bring it to their attention. Because they may know. Some people know. But a lot of people don't.
Brandon?
No, I would, and I would do it in private and have that conversation with them one on one and try to understand and share it to them privately. They're going to be more apt to receive it in private versus public. They're going to dig in their heels and defend themselves, but in private, you might be able to get through to them a lot better.
Yeah, I think that's like you said. I think Cody brings up a good thing, right? I mean, like I said earlier too, like Brandon, calling me. I know it was fun, but just calling in, checking in, like, hey, what are you doing, or this doesn't kind of vibe with the community we have, or whatnot, right? So,
And I think
um,
there's another way at things too, and I do this in my business, and other times is catch them doing something right. Somebody you care about, really complimenting them on doing something right also motivates behavior too. I do the same thing within my business and with my children, is trying to catch them doing something right and really going above and beyond of the compliment on that, and acknowledging doing something right also modifies behavior too.
all right, there's Dion throwing his. So rules are meant to be bent. Hmm.
How many shots have you had, Dion? I know it's 5 o'clock somewhere, but come on.
I think that's we'll wrap it up kind of with that then. I mean, what's your guys' thoughts on that, Dion's comment there?
I don't think well, there's times where you can bend the rules. We call it the gray space. It's where I work here, gray space. But you can also build a massive fortune without doing that. So pick the game you want to play and play it. I've definitely played in the gray space, though. I've bent the rules before. You got to acknowledge it, otherwise you're a hypocrite, as Brandon would say earlier. Everybody is to an extent, but try and avoid it.
And in really context of what he's talking about, I think there are very ethical rules that can be bent, but then I think there's unethical rules that can be bent too. It just depends on the context of what you're doing. But it's, I always believe, because I was told some things that I couldn't do, which motivated me. Sometimes it's not playing the game, it's changing the way the game's played. And with that, sometimes that is bending the rules a little bit, is changing the whole game, because we don't believe in just doing it the way everybody else has.
Here we go, Dion again. I can prove it. You all have your
Dion's
COVID
funny.
shots, boosters.
Not a chance.
But I definitely, I think for me that having a child definitely kind of changes a lot of things, right? So, kind of going back to even like the baseball part of it, Dion talking rules are meant to be bent. I mean, I think that's definitely the space I definitely played in. Maybe part of it, I wasn't always the most talented player in a sense. So you're always trying to maximize your skills, right? You're maximize being out on the field and finding some way to win. But having my son now is kind of trying to figure out how to relate that to them without, like we're saying, like win at all costs, or what's the boundary, right? So try to maximize your skills, like you're saying, bend the rules, not necessarily break them to where someone else is going to be impacted by it, right? So that's that line. Well, let's see. Hey, Rick Freeman's here. Says former police officer, nonetheless. Oh, from a police officer. Oh, for Dion.
I see it. I see what Dion just put.
Let's see. Rules can be changed if the parties agree on the change, says John. And then Dion says, hypothetically, did anyone like me slip 200 to shoot the needle into the trash can? All right, you guys want to wrap it up with it?
Oh, Dion.
Yeah. No, but I that's what I love about Dion. I mean, he definitely will make you think and question. And I think that's also how maybe how strongly you feel about something, right? So he'll throw out a question in there, he'll make you kind of think on, see the other side, and then you'll be like, no, wait a minute, I kind of believe my stance in a sense, right? But he definitely makes you think and see the other viewpoint on things, and that's what I love about him. All right, I don't know. We can wrap. Anything else you guys wanna? Anything else you guys want to say out there? Anything for the Cody? You're this Saturday, right? Will you be there for the Gen Z call? I know you're kind of off and on with Dylan, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be there.
And Cody has confirmed it's not only for Gen Z. So anyone in the school community wants to join, come in. I know it's hard. I don't know. The Gen Z people don't seem to show up. Maybe it's too early for them. So they got all the old fogies coming in, drinking their coffee, tuning in for the call. But
they're all
yeah.
sleeping.
Yeah.
Just like the prom queen.
Yeah. I was going to say that.
Maybe you should consider changing the time frame on a Saturday morning.
No,
Or
he wants to see who's dedicated.
people got to do work and wake up.
Yeah. Brandon, anything you want to wrap things up with?
No, this was a good discussion. Cody, I'm glad you put it out there. I'm going to go watch the video. I didn't see it, but it's good that you're having these introspective thoughts and sharing those. I think that was a piece of why it went viral, because it sounds to me like it was a very honest discussion and question. And I think that's what people want to hear. It's a very genuine discussion.
All right. Dion's going live right now. So everyone, if you have the time, at least go stop by, hit that like button if you can't watch it, but go check out Dion's live. There's a link to Cody's video if you want to see what we've been discussing. And yeah, everyone, thanks for tuning in, and I will see everyone in a few days probably. Thanks, fellas.